Hello Tamers, Sidra back in Dame, as we end off our countdown towards BT23 Hacker Slumber's release. But today's deck list ends up being pretty much golden, as we get to cover the Rock Mineral trait during the EX10 format, as it practically became a polished diamond following the new support that I got from EX10. And well, before we crack on into it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this around to help with the algorithm. And without further ado, let's get to it. And starting off with the egg deck, goes out saying that EX8 Digimon is pretty much the go-to egg for the deck, as it's practically irreplaceable as it's, the fuel for the deck, considering that the when trashed from sources, gain 1 memory inherent is practically abusable in this deck, considering that once you're reloaded in, it resets to be used in response to being trashed once again. Hence why it's so crucial for this deck's memory efficiency, since you can play around with it, since you load up multiple Digimon that are sitting in trash to get a payout of memory to keep turn. And that's it for the egg deck. Now on to the rookie lineup. And since we last saw this deck, the lineup has pretty much, core has expanded since we've got new Sunarizas in the, lineup. With the core end up being EX8 Sunariza and BT21 Sunariza as a full playset, and then 2 copies of the new EX10 Sunariza for backup, with EX8 being the searcher of the deck, BT21 Sunariza as the evolution reduction, and EX10 being able to, on play, reload to Rock Mineral trait sources underneath any of your Rock Mineral trait Digimon on board, thus being a toolbox as you're able to reload into either itself or any of your existing Digimon on board to reload them up with sources to make use of for their trashing effects. Then goes without saying that all 3 share the same inherent when they're trashed from source, you're able to delete a cost for less Digimon on the opposing side. As for other tech picks, good old BT16 Uko still has room to be played in this deck, and then EX8 Gatsu here also has some room, considering that you also set up trash by on deleting it, as well as drawing 2 as a payout, as well as granting any stacks you build with it blocker. And then Uko here goes without saying as well, being a searcher when pushed out from raising, as well as being able to establish Tomomon early by throwing it into the opponent's security to chip away. And that's it for rookie lineup. Now on to level 4s. With it still being a main core of a 4-4 split between EX8 Landramon and Promo Landramon, and to add to that stack, being the 1 copy of the new EX10 Landra. Since this ratio ends up being more focused towards, the deck's efficiency, since EX8 Landra here is more so to establish foundations for this deck by allowing you to cheat out closes from hand, and then Promo Landra being able to search at the start main or when digivolving into by trashing away 1 source to then dig 3 and end any Liberator or Rock Mineral trait. While the new EX10 Lander here grants a bit of toolboxing effects, since on playing on Digivolve, you get to trash any source, get to trash the source from any of your own Digimon in order to grant one of your Rock Mineral trait Digimon with Reboot and Blocker and extra 3000 DP for the turn, which comes in handy considering that you at least get to grant itself or another stack with Blocker and Reboot to make use of it. And then as for inherits, EX10 and EX8 share the popping effects of Sunariza, while Promolandra is a Digivolve when trashed. And then following that up, that marks the end of level 4s. Now we go on to level 5s, which ends up being a new ratio, being a 4-3 split now of EX10 Pragana and EX8 Pragana, with EX10 Pragana being your main go-to now, considering that it practically is a much more better version of EX8 in terms of stack building. Since, well, first off, really, it follows the same nature of all the new iterations of Liberator lines, being a level 5 that can digivolve over the rookie as long as you have the partner tamer on board, and the level 4 in trash to then digivolve for its normal cost. With Pragana here definitely breaking the mold in the sense that instead of being just it loses out on the archetypal keyword compared to the other level 5s, but makes for it by doing what the deck loves. By trashing away one source, you're able to grant any Rock Metal trait Digimon on your side collision and piercing and extra plus 2000 DP till the end of opponent's turn. Though this doesn't have a once per turn clause, thus you could trigger it off twice when you declare attack with it, thus making it a 13k beater with collision and piercing by itself, barring, EX10 land drop. And thus you have yourself a control option, since you'll be proccing collision to force a block that you, depending on how well tempoed you are, can force out for early control. While Pragana here is also that in the same sense, by having piercing and collision by default, as well as having extra assurance with the Fragment 3 to protect itself, with both granting a 1 trash from Source Inherit of Digivolve 1. As for tech picks, you still have some more room to argue for Sunarizamon Ace and the Diamond in the Rough himself, BT4 Gogmamon. Sunarizamon Ace's inclusion as a staple in this deck goes without saying, considering that you could blast into it to then draw and then search 5 on the opponent's turn to then play out any black tamer from the revealed cards. Then, if you have have a tamer on board, you get to dish out Digivolve 1 to a target. As well as that Digivolve 1 becomes a 1 attacking inherit when you Digivolve over it. And then Gogmon being able to make use of all the trash from source effects by being able to trigger off Digiburst ad infinitum, since there's no once per turn clause on it, just relying on how many sources you have under the stack, granting a plus 2000 DP boost to the second to the opponent's turn, with a plus 1000 DP all turns inherit. Though as for why I booted out Gogmamon, it's more so to capitalize on so many of the Digivolve when trash from source inherits, since you could play around with them, practically reloading them via effects that could reload them under your Digimon and allow you to trigger off the Digivolve by trashing them from source. And that's for the level 5s. Now on to level 6, which ends up being bare bones, being a full playset of EX8 Pyramid as the main boss of the deck, with it running this low for a reason, being that the deck practically can make use of this low ratio, considering that you do send your Sunarizas pretty early, thus allowing you to recycle EX8 Sunariza through the unique emblem to play them out. Since, when also considering that Promolandra also searches, you have a fair amount of good digging in this deck. Because it's saying that EX8 Pyramidi here is the main boss for the deck, considering that ends up being your main aggro play, being able to protect itself with Fragment 3, with a 1 Digivolving when attacking, with no once return clause, of trashing 3 of its own sources to unsuspend and grant itself security +1, with that security stacking upon each declaration of the effect. Thus, Digivolving into it and then attacking instantly means it's going to check 3 in that first swing, and then starting to swing again, barring that it survives all of the battles, and then some. With the end of turn effect to be able to reload 3 sources underneath itself in case you didn't finish the deal. And as for tech picks for level 6s, I've seen some arguments for the EX10 Pyramidi to be included as an efficiency booster, since it's a 3 evolution with Fragment, with effects that you could sequence accordingly, since it's for once return effect on Digivolve one or when attacking, allows you to load back in 3 rock mineral traits underneath itself, so that you could then trigger off its when Digivolving when attacking with no once return clause to purge 3 sources from itself, to then reduce opponent's Digimon's play costs on board by 2 for every source you've lost for this effect. Since that then coincides with your Sunriza and Landra inherits, since you will trigger this off first and bring them down low enough so that their play cost is within range of the ability to pop them. And then for the other tech pick, there's also room to include the EX10 Blastmon, since it pretty much fits into this deck, considering that it is an archetype and has collision, blocker, and fragment, with its on-play 1 Digivolving effect, allowing it to taunt one opposing Digimon until the end of their turn, with the alternate effect, whenever it sees a Digimon attack, by trashing any 2 of its own sources, it gets to gain security +1 and extra 3000 DP until the end of your turn. Thus, you can set yourself up with a 16k wall or 16k beater, considering that it just needs to see a Digimon attack in order to then trash one of its own sources and 2 of its sources for the extra security boost. And that rounds off level 6s. Now on to, the highlight of this deck. That being the new level 7 Magneticdramon. Since, you end up being able to go into this quite efficiently, depending on how well you want to play it out, since it's able to go over Pyramidi or Digivolve over Pregana for a cost of 6, as long as you have Close on board, with it also being a fragment body to protect itself, and the main draw of this card being its when Digivolve and when attacking effects that you could sequence depending, since in both cases you could choose to trigger them off when you go into them or when you declare attacks, with this actually is playing well, considering that for its first, its upgraded version of Perminis in a sense, being that you get to trash 3 of its own sources, to then pop 1 opposing Digimon, and then burn away 1 of their security. With it also having a, upgraded Pyramidi source reload effect, since you then trigger it off whenever you want to on Digivolve and when attacking, instead of waiting until the end of your turn. With that source reload, allowing Magneticdramon to unsuspend. Thus, depending on how you sequence your plays, you could practically, do a practically safer OTK with this deck now. Considering that you put more pressure when you drop this guy down for the one Digivolving, and then being able to reload on top of that for an unsuspend. And that's it for the Digimon lineup. Now on to Tamers. This lineup definitely being a change for it, considering that it's now a 3-3 split between between EX8 close and the new EX10 close, as you're more self-sufficient in this sense. With the EX8 close being the definite include as your memory tamer for this attack, and your main source of reload, since whenever she sees your Digimon Digivolve up into a rock mineral trait, she is able to send herself down to reload 2 sources into that Digimon. Then, EX10 close, pretty much being a, definitely another mold-breaking iteration for Liberator cards, given that she works very well in this deck. Goes without saying that she's able to replace herself at the start of your turn, start of your main, to bounce herself to bot deck, to then play out a close from hand while paying the cost. And while you're on an empty board, you're able to revive a Sunariza from trash if need be, allowing you to recuperate on an empty board. With her all turns effect, being that whenever she sees a rock mineral trait Digimon have their source being removed, you get to spend her down to then gain 1 memory. Thus, pretty much allowing you to have the ball in your court with more memory gain, since you are constantly trashing away sources in this deck more frequently now, thus allowing you to keep turn or help you steal turn in response to effects like Fragment. Then it goes without saying that the other tech pick is the old promo close, being able to gain 1 memory on your turn at the start main phase, as long as the opponent has a Digimon, and then being able to reload sources whenever she sees, in fact, remove sources from your Digimon. Though, in comparison between the promo close and EX10 close, EX10 wins out in the fact that you have less reliance on the opponent for that extra memory to work off of. And that's it for the Tamer lineup. Now on to options. And starting with utility options, it's a 2-4-1 split in terms of the staple support, with Black Man Boost being able to dig deeper and being 2 memory for later, Defense Training being a lesser search but free, a reduced evolution for later, and Black Scramble, tempoing up by reducing an evolution and being able to recycle and possibly revive later down the line. Then, for other options in Archetype, this deck actually can run its unique emblem at practically more than 2 copies, considering that, besides being able to cheat a close, your Sunarizamons practically live in the trash in this deck since you get to send there so frequently, thus allowing you to revive them whenever you see Gravel Hearts and the opportunity to do so. Then it goes without saying, like all the unique emblems, whenever it sees close, suspend down, you get to proc the delay to then allow one of your rock mineral trait Digimon to Digivolve up into a mineral and Liberator trait Digimon, reducing the evolution by 3. Then, following that up, is Zofricabus as a form of insurance for the deck. Since, by trashing one of your own sources from one of your Digimon, you're able to grant it collision, piercing, and reboot with an extra plus 2000 EP, as well as protection against bouncing effects, thus allowing you some safer plays against, bouncing effects. As for tech options, you could go the route of stacking damage with Final Zubagon Punch, being able to grant any Digimon extra 3000 EP until the end of the opponent's turn, and then once they've reached over the 16,000 DP threshold, it gets to gain blocker, reboot, and security +1 to hit harder. And that's it for the deck itself. Now on to combos. And before going into combos, starting off with the mulligan hand, pretty much it's the usual go-to. Looking to see 2 rookies, and then pretty much a level 4 to go into, preferably EX8 and promo Landra, followed by a close, and then seeing Unique Emblem, Black Moose, or Defense Train to help bolster, to help make sure you start off pretty strong to get the ball rolling. Since from there, it's just pretty much climbing up and seeing your pieces to then climb up into your boss monsters to at least have them supported, and then the other utilities as tertiary necessity. And then we get back into going over the combos. And starting off for combos, we actually have one of the new early turn plays that you could play with. Since this early game combo just ensues pretty much establishing summaries in the back and choosing to establish Gravel Hearts to then cheat out close, or just to cheat out another Sunariza early on that's Sing in hand. Though, depending on which route, you also have a number of ways as well, since you also have EX10 close pairing well with promo Landra, since you could then start a turn in this board state, pushing out Landra from raising, triggering off the star main to trash one source, most of the time being Tumble, to then trigger off the search, trigger off Tumble for gain 1, and close since you saw that effect trash, suspend down, and put you back to 3 pretty much immediately to then work from there to help with your climb. Though, again, the main idea of this deck is pretty much establishing out your whole base early on, just to ensure your OTK climb go smoothly, since most of your effects can chain into the other to ensure memory efficiency, since for the most part you can climb into Pragana, with EX10 definitely once again being your main Pragana to work with, considering that ends up boosting the whole stack with collision, piercing, and the extra 3000 DP, going into Beer Medium, triggering off, and just go swing with a lot more safety with the EX10 Pragana's boost. Though, from there, you also have the whole number of slews of effects. With, once again, EX10 close definitely being a linchpin, since Pyramid will, well, first off, lose 3 of its own sources on Digivolve. Swing, lose 3 more sources. Trigger off close. And then that swing is sitting on Sec plus 2 now with the unspin body. And triggering off Ying Emblem in response to close to then Digivolve up into Magneticdramon. Thus, you could then play around with effects accordingly, being able to, well, reload or pretty much go into it and burn away security, and being able to ensure that you swing with even more safety, given that it's a 14k base body with that extra boost that you've given it, as well as being able to clear pierces on the opponent's board on evolution and when attacking. And once again, being able to swing off of just the first Pyramid swing now. Trigger off the unsuspend by loading back sources while keeping turn. To possibly clear out the rest of security. And swing once again. And trigger off the when attacking to get rid of any pesky blockers in the way, to then go for face. But overall, the playstyle is still the same, though now a lot more safer, with a lot more, well, more control really, as you're able to, well, grind the opponent down a lot more efficiently and a lot more aggressively now, with the addition of Magneticdramon pretty much boosting, well, getting boosted by EX8 Pyramides Sec plus 1. But overall, the deck is pretty fun, and it goes without saying that it has topped for that many reasons due to how efficient this deck is in of itself. Heck, some lists I've actually seen forgoes Pyramid altogether and just goes straight for the throat with Magneticdramon's effect. Though, considering my own preferences, I definitely like the stack building route of including Pyramid just for the extra punches with the security that it gives. But yep, that has been my look at the Rock Mineral Trade deck from the EX10 format. And well, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to keep up as we enter into the BT23 format with Hacker Slumbers. And this is Cyberjaws signing off.